Peace. Uh, too late. Can I zoom? Can I zoom? The Consulate Embassy of Afghanistan. Uh, this is the Consulate of Venezuela. This is the Chinese consulate. I believe this is the Chinese consulate, and well, I mean this is the Brazilian consulate in Boston. This is the Chinese consulate in Boston. This is the Russian consulate, and then I had the CC. There was another Russian consulate's email that I sent this to. um, this is the letter. Here's my signature. And here's what was scanned and sent to them. It's the same exact letter. It was scanned, emailed, and it was mailed today. This. Today's date, post office, time. These are the locations that I sent it to. It's hard to see that, but it's going to be clear on Instagram. Here's the letter. It's 10 pages. From me, Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey, chairman and founder of the Rise of the Moors nonprofit civic organization. So this is who it's from. I'm not claiming to represent anyone except for my own organization. The date. It brings me great pleasure to extend an open hand and friendly lines of communication with the honorable representatives of the nations of the world. I am Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey, a Moorish American, which is the true national identity of the native inhabitants of North, South, Central America, and the adjoining islands, who have been branded Negroes, Blacks, Coloreds, Indians, West Indians, Latinos, Jamaicans, Dominicans, etc. As stated by the first patriot of our newly risen nation, Drew Ali, Alhaj Sharif Abdullah Ali, the people of America, who are of ancient Canaanite and Moabite descent, are all one people bearing one free national name. The very name American is derived from the phrase Almoracán, meaning descendants of the Moors, Moreno y Morena, so in Spanish. By no coincidence, many South Almoracán nation states display the Liberty Cap on their coat of arms, such as the Republic of Haiti, Cuba, Colombia, Guatemala, and a few states in Brazil. This Liberty Cap not only displays the vigor and national fidelity of the South Americans who successfully revolted against de facto democratic European colonial imperialism and gained self-autonomy, but it also links every nation back to her ancestral roots. The Phrygian cap is one name for this cap of freedom and is derived from the word Phrygia, a territory once under the imperial administration of the Moorish Empire. Phrygia is now modern-day Turkey. The Prime Minister of Turkey revealed to the world that Muslim seafarers arrived to America long before Christopher Columbus had any inclination of the existence of these shores. 1 second while I check the audio, because sometimes it's too loud. It's not too loud, is it, on YouTube? Ivan Urisco, a professor of the University of Rhode Island in charge of a research team discovered Quranic manuscripts that predate Columbus by at least 500 years. The Moors of North America are those Muslims and ancient seafarers that have been traveling to and from the continents of the Americas and the shores of Africa long before our lands were colonized by the pale-skinned nations of Europe. International evidence of our great empire, travels, and dominions over the Americas is the Treaty of Amity and Commerce between the Almoravian Empire and the colonial United States of America of 1786-1787. In this treaty, one will find out that the various European nations forming the 13 colonies on North American soil paid tribute to our vast empire and at that time had no power to transport any Africans from the continent to the Americas. History shows that the United States was desperately trying to raise enough finance to form a navy to end payments to our empire with the goal of waging war against us along with other Christian powers, hence the Barbary Wars of the 1800s. This history has been lost among many Moors, branded Negro, blacks, and coloreds. Our lost history is why the Europeans have been administrating our lands via the estate principles of escheating, the feudal acts of conversion, and the vast miseducation of our people, which places us in a wardship status. This disconnect is why, in 1886, the great universal creator sent our patriot, Drew Ali, who at the age of 16 traveled to Egypt and the holy city of Mecca, destined to become the first patriot of our newly risen nation of Moors, to redeem us from mental slavery, bring us back into the League of Nations, and take our place amongst the affairs of men. He was anointed Al-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali by the heads of Egypt in the holy city of Mecca, returned to North America, Morocco, and began his missionary work. He established the Old Canaanite Temple in 1913, a civic organization at the age of 27, and the Moorish Holy Temple of Science in 1925. By 1928, he had not only established the Moorish Science Temple of America with over 3,000 members, with regencies throughout North America to help teach our people the things necessary to become Moroccan citizens, expatriate from the United States, enforce the Constitution, and bring us from under the iron hand of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. He most graciously attended, there's a typo, the Pan American Conference held at Havana, Cuba in 1928, and the First Islamic Conference, November of 1925, initiated by Sultan Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, was received with open arms, upheld, and restored the honor of the Moors of North America. On the 19th day of March 2021, 112 Moors came together to establish a body politic to assist in the resurrection of our own free national Moorish government, to exercise our right to self-determination as guaranteed by the UN Charter, and to get ourselves from under the oppression, tyranny, and genocide of actors within the United States colonies on North America. It was resolved that the body politic was to be known as and serve the purposes of the Interim Special Committee for the specific purposes of hosting and establishing a free national constitutional convention and taking all necessary steps to meet these ends, and help treat the diversity of citizenship issue that our people are currently facing. Attached will be a copy of the original document of the ISC. Among many other things, our goals are to reclaim our national sovereignty by exercising the just sanguine and just soli rights of imperium vested in us. At this time, we are considered a non-self-governing nation due to the fact that our country has been colonized and is under the occupational power of the de facto United States. Despite fierce opposition and constant attacks on our nationals, we are doing what we can to rise in honor. We are taught that a beggar nation can never rise to their highest degree of spirituality, sovereignty, and freedom. Although we are not beggars, we are also not above extending our hands and reaching out to other nations and humbly asking for support in any manner possible. Among some of our aspirations as a people is national equality. We desire better homes for our women and children and a higher quality of education for our people taught by our people. For too long have the Moors of North America been trying to uplift themselves as individuals, failing to see that where there is unity, there is strength. Strength to overcome the worst manifestations of poverty, strength to emerge triumphant in the most devastating situations, knowing that for once we are not alone. It seems as though the mainstream media, news, and social media seem to target division, social unrest, and things that bring harm. No people, civilized or not, can function without order, structure, and a system to correct its wrongs. Drew Ali spoke of a free national government to do just that, establish order. We desire to imitate our prophet and continue to set the example to our men, women, and children in an upright manner, making their duty towards men clearly understood by accomplishing our goals and showing how our prophets' prophecies are within arm's reach. Order, education, and discipline is key to counter emotional upheaval and civil unrest. My people, who've been referred to as Black, African American, Negroes, and West Indians, know not where they are from due to a dark past of miseducation and mental slavery. There will come a time when they will take unto the streets in an attempt to end social, economic, national, and racial injustices, but at whom their energies will be directed is uncertain. This is self-evident in the many marches formulated by my people. Passions run high with no political aim, direction, guidance, or the gnosis of effectively achieving the goals that they are aiming for. Violence, rioting, theft, and unwarranted opposition is against any national standards of moral, ethical, or religious conduct. Men need a pattern for their lives. They love to follow, not to lead. Drew Ali has set a pattern for us to live by. We need every single one of our people who think their conditions could be better to be part of this movement wherever they see fit, can thrive and exercise their skills for the betterment of the collective. Establishing lines of communication between your government and ours will indeed bring forth honorable people to help alleviate violence, bring forth peace, and end the national oppression of the Moors of North America. Just as the people of Cuba became heavily involved in supporting the nationalization movements in many countries such as Ghana, Nicaragua, Yemen, and Angola, so too does the Moorish nation need support from other countries. We follow our national hero to a simple destination, national freedom. It is necessary that with all men, besides our differences, national sovereign equality is at the forefront of all nations. We desire to end oppression in all its fashions and wherever it may reveal its ugly face. Equal protection for all under the law, regardless of national origin, religious creed, or gender, is the order of the free world. Our friendly relations and intercourse will pave the way, there's a typo, for the future. Many nationalized people have rich history and only achieved statehood, a typo, due to people's fortitude, people's vigor, and unwavering opposition to European colonization. Many nations have been making their mark on history, and the Moors of North America are making theirs. Many of our goals can be achieved with our national strength, but I know all of our goals cannot come to pass without the help from the nations of the world in some form or fashion. Our national hero states that the world may hear and know the truth that among the descendants of Africa there is still much wisdom to be learned in the days for the redemption of the sons of men under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We as a clean and pure nation descended from the inhabitants of Africa do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve their gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared for their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earthland which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. Come, all ye Asiatics of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. The Moors of North America, having been disconnected from our archaic foremothers and fathers, have much to learn from other nations. Together we can make America a place of freedom. We are the rightful heirs apparent to the continent of North America, and we intend to rise back to our de jure capacity with complete administrative control over our natural resources, land, and commerce. Knowing that self-defense is essential to the defense of all self-governing nations and peoples, on July 3rd, 2021, the ISC Interim Special Committee sent out a special unit of 11 Moorish Americans who were part of the Interim Special Committee in the quest for the establishment of our own Moorish government and protect the same, to begin self-defense training. See United Nations Charter, Chapter 7, Action with Respect to Threats to the Peace, Breaches of the Peace and Acts of Aggression, Article 51. Nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent right of individual or collective self-defense if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations until the Security Council has taken measures necessary to maintain international peace and security. Measures taken by members in the exercise of this right of self-defense shall be immediately reported to the Security Council and shall not in any way affect the authority and responsibility of the Security Council under the present charter to take at any time such action as it deems necessary in order to maintain or restore international peace and security. At approximately 1 a.m., the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a member state of the United States in violation of the Act of State Doctrine and the United States' own Supreme Court decision, state troopers of Massachusetts and New Hampshire unlawfully stopped and seized the 11 Moors. As members of the Interim Special Committee for the specific purposes of hosting and establishing a free Moorish National Constitutional Convention and taking all necessary steps to meet these ends, these 11 Moors should have been protected by international law and the decision of the United States Supreme Court, as we are and were citizens of our own government conducting a training exercise on our own homeland. See Underhill versus Hernandez, 168 U.S. 250, 1897. The court reasoned that, this is from the United States Supreme Court, every sovereign state is bound to respect the independence of every other sovereign state. And the courts of one country will not sit in the judgment on the acts of the government of another done within its own territory. And House Resolution 0689 from the state of Georgia, whereas the indigenous Moorish peoples of the Americas are now united in order to again link themselves with the family of nations, and whereas the Moorish Americans, being aboriginal to the territories of North, Central, and South America, have formed a sovereign theocratic government guided by the command principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice through the virtue of the universal right to self-determination, as well as the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People guaranteed in the Charter. Link from the State of Illinois government's website. And House Resolution 1203, State of Georgia. Whereas the Moorish Americans are teaching their people their true nationality and divine creed, that they may become better citizens and know they are not Negroes, colored folk, black people, nor Afros, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865. In this era of time, all nations are seeking peace. The indigenous Moorish people of the Americas are now united to link themselves with the family of nations. And whereas the Moorish Americans, being aboriginal to the territories of North, Central, and South Americas, have formed a sovereign theocratic government guided by the command principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice through the virtue of the universal right to self-determination, as well as the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples guaranteed in the Charter of the United Nations. Link from the legislator of Georgia.gov. Despite attempts of the IC to assert that the Moors are part of a separate nation of people with all rights guaranteed to us by the UN, to include consular rights, the United States federal and state courts refuse to recognize us and have conducted a series of covert and illegal projects actively conducted by the United States in collusion with state and federal actors aimed at surveilling, infiltrating, discrediting, and disrupting our political activity to fully materialize our right to self-determination. Due to these illegal activities, the ISC, which at its height comprised of 200 sundry free Moors, has been dissolved due to fear, mistrust, and other attacks by the United States and their agents. Vice News has done a report on Moors and has revealed that there are over 1 million requests from Moors seeking the United States to recognize us as a separate nation of people, as guaranteed to us by the United Nations Charter, which they signed. But instead of recognition, they have increased their attacks, labeled us as sovereign citizens, tax protesters, and domestic paper terrorists. Yet, by their own law, citizenship of the United States is lost when a formal declaration is made regarding allegiance to a nation, including military or militia service in said nation or declaration of nationality. See 8 U.S.C., United States Code, subsection 1481, loss of nationality by native-born or naturalized citizens, voluntary action, burden of proof, presumptions, 8 U.S.C. 1481A2. United States Courts of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, Shepard versus Holder. Because nationality includes citizenship, nationality claims is understood to include citizenship claims. English versus Mises International Banking System. What then does nationality encompass if it is not to be construed as being synonymous and coexistive with national origin? Nationality has several definitions, one of which appears to embrace the national origin concept. A people having a common origin, tradition, and language, and capable of forming or actually constituting a nation state. Dulane versus Immigration and Naturalization Services. The basic terms of nationality law are matters of common knowledge and understanding. We know that nationality and citizenship are legal and political terms denoting a status which confers important rights and responsibilities. There can be no argument of absolute certainty that by one claiming to be an American citizen, that one means citizens of the United States, as the Americas and American people existed before the United States. The Americas are continents, large bodies of land which are inhabited by several nation states, body politics, etc. People born in Mexico are Americans, not U.S. citizens. People born in Haiti, Cuba, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, etc. are all Americans and not U.S. citizens, absent any formal declaration of allegiance in application for U.S. citizenship. The United States of America, identified by the Star-Spangled Banner, is a European body politic who colonized North America, who, in their collective and corporate capacity, acting in unit as the United States of America, namely the Continental Congress composed of delegates from the 13 colonies, declared the United States colonies to be free and independent, and have, via their European descendants, fully colonized North America. But this does not mean they are the Americans. See United States versus Curtis Wright, Export Corpora Supra, SFF TIR LLC versus Shepard. Stevenson. Stefferson? 262 FSUPP 3D1165. Britain's 13 colonies on the Atlantic seaboard. The American colonies, the English North American colonies. Deering versus Parker, 4 U.S. 23 United States Supreme Court, July 1st, 1760, the New England colonies. The United States are still European colonies, albeit separate from the British Crown. Those who haven't mixed with the national bloodlines of the Aboriginal and Indigenous Americans are still foreign European colonists and or their descendants and not Americans. Similarly, China, or the People's Republic of China, nor the Chinese people themselves can claim to be the only Asians in the way the U.S. implies, as if they are the only Americans. Similarly, a German who otherwise does not mix and mate with the Aboriginal and Indigenous people of Asia will never be an Asian national. No matter how many thousands of German descendants remain in or are born in Asia, German European individuals born to German parents in Asia are still foreign European Germans, not Asians. The same stands true for the Europeans born on American soil. Their national origin lay in the nations of Europe. Individuals may be able to claim naturalized citizenship based on jus soli principles if the government acknowledges those principles, but they are never jus sanguine, unless again they mate or mix with the nationals of the land and then their children become nationals. Thus, citizens of the United States may be American citizens, but they are not American nationals. Moors are American citizens, just as Brazilians and Cubans are American citizens and not citizens of the United States. We are and have the right to be citizens of our own government and enjoy all rights and privileges afforded to us according to international law, customs, and any treaties we establish with other sovereigns. This means this court cannot prosecute a Moorish American on his own homeland absent consent from the Moorish government. Rebutting the presumption of U.S. citizenship. United States Supreme Court. The right of expatriation. It is implied likewise in the nature and object of the social compact, which was formed to shield the weakness and to supply the wants of individuals, to protect the acquisition of human industry, and to promote the means of human happiness. Whenever these purposes fail, either the whole society is dissolved or the suffering individuals are permitted to withdraw from it. Will it be said that the renunciation of allegiance to the former implies or draws after it a renunciation of allegiance to the latter? The sovereignties are different, the allegiance is different, the right too may be different. The doctrine is that allegiance cannot be due to two sovereigns, and taking an oath of allegiance to a new is the strongest evidence of withdrawing allegiance from the previous sovereign. The declaration of one's Moorish/Moroccan nationality and allegiance to the same severs, withdraws, and or terminates any preconceived notions, claims, or beliefs of U.S. citizenship or U.S. allegiance other than treaty obligations to any and all other nations, states, quasi-nations, kingdoms, sovereign, country, corporation, political body, union, federation, and others, subsequently severing or removing any jurisdictional claims or assertions of anyone over a Moor. See the Act of State Doctrine, where Chief Justice Marshall declared that one nation must recognize the acts and powers of another nation. The Act of State Doctrine appears as early as 1674 and appears in U.S. jurisprudence as early as the 18th century. I already read this. I've already read this as well. What we Moors are seeking is not an anomaly or new. In fact, this issue of separation, as opposed to colonial assimilation, was sought after in 1790. It was stated in the Dred Scott case that blacks were never meant to be citizens of the United States. So even after this idea of being assimilated citizens, the second class treatment is nothing more than residual reverberations of that well thought out and detailed explanation given by Chief Justice Roger B. Taney. Since the establishment of the colonies were never for the benefit of anyone other than the colonists themselves, and at the time the Dred Scott decision, naturalization laws were already in existence. These laws were fully detailed by Justice Taney. Naturalization only existed for other European nationals commonly classified as white. As the colonists maintained their specific national identities, cultures, and philosophies, all of which were European in origin. These various European national identities, like all other nationalist movements, share a sentiment of self before others. This is a common theme not rooted in hatred or bigotry that has caused every nation to thrive. What Black Americans should have done is revert back to their original national identity, culture, and political standing before slavery, reconnect with their previous nation states, and receive protections under them, as opposed to begging to be treated as equal with their white masters. In law, it is called jus post limine, an example of former slaves seeking protections from their country of origin as opposed to being treated as U.S. black property or U.S. black citizens via the abandonment of their own identity and assimilation into the United States colonies is a peculiar case in 1790. And this is the Sundry v. Moors Act. I'm not going to read it because most Moors already know what this is. Since the dissolution of the ISC, as an individual Moor, I seek help from the nations of the world to help teach my people they are not Negroes, colored folk, black people, nor Afros, and that we Moors have the right to self-govern. My civic organization does not claim to be the governing body of Moors, but we have always attempted to fight for our independence and vocalize that our government must be comprised of elected individuals. I was a member of the ISC and one of the 11 Moors unlawfully arrested. The Woburn Superior Court docket blah 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 2181CR00361 is the case number. We Moors need help. I need help. This was sent to the Russian consulate, to the Venezuelan consulate, to the Brazilian consulate, the Chinese consulate, and the United Nations Office of Internal, hold on, it's loading. Office of Internal Oversight Services. And also I filed a complaint with them, this right here. And I copied and pasted some of the things that I just read. And I specified that I was held in jail. And while in jail, some of the Moors were spit on, thrown in a cell naked, forced to clean up blood by a person who committed suicide, and forced to live, excuse the typo, in that same cell, prolonged confinement to a cell, and violation of a right to self-determination, violation of the active state doctrine, human trafficking, and torture. And how this made international news. And I'm not anonymous. I want them to know that I did this. And I gave them my home address and phone number.